Outrage over the death of Charlie Kirk continues as both Republicans and Democrats and their supporters blame each other for political violence. Charlie Kirk was killed last week while addressing students at a university campus in the state of Utah. U.S. President Donald Trump responded by ordering the national flag to be flown at half-mast and awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously, the country's highest civilian honor. And then Trump had this to say.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
Do you plan on investigating?
We'll see. We'll be announcing. They're already under investigation. You know, they're already under major investigation. A lot of the people that you would traditionally say are on the left.
They're already under investigation?
Already under investigation.
So, what is the state of U.S. politics? How will the nation move forward? To discuss this and more, let's bring in our guests. Joining us here in Washington, D.C., Frank Sesno is a professor of media and public affairs at George Washington University and a former CNN Washington bureau chief. From Miami, we're joined by Jaden Horan. He is a political analyst. Also in Washington, D.C., Douglas Sloan is principal at the National Capital Strategy Group. And Adolfo Franco is an attorney and Republican strategist. Thanks to all of you for being with us. Douglas Sloan, Jaden mentioned politicians then. If we look at leadership across the board, if we look at the United States Congress, for instance, there's not much we see in the way of compromise, in the way of coming together, in the way of agreement. I mean, you do get some very non-controversial bills which will pass with the support of both parties. But they often disagree on very high-profile legislation because of this heightened political polarization that we see. I mean, we see that when, you know, their prospective justices for the United States Supreme Court coming before the Senate for approval, we see the divisions. They're very stark at that time. How did the United States get to this point?
Well, unfortunately, I think this is a matter of following the leader. Trump has been the divider in chief in this regard in terms of pushing that type of polarization between the parties. And I agree with the last two speakers regarding some of the reasoning behind this is due to the proliferation of social media and the radicalization of people through those mediums. However, I will push back a bit on what I perceive to be a false equivalency here. I do agree that the far left and the Democrats can engage with a lot of rhetoric, but there's often not any action behind that rhetoric. Whereas on the Republican side, with far right-wing extremists, we have violence. We have an attempted kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer. We have an attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. We have a murder of a state senator in Minnesota, Melissa Hortman, and a shooting of John Hoffman, who's also a state senator in Minnesota. And of course, we have the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol. So there's violence behind that extremism coming from the right. The Cato Group just did a study noting that the right-wing extremists are the second most violent group in this country, second to only Islamic extremists in terms of violence that is domestically based. And you have to also, they are responsible for, I think, 11% of the violence in this country. So as usual, you know, the Democrats, yeah, they got a lot of mouth, but there's not a lot of action behind a lot of the Democratic rhetoric, whereas on the Republican side, there's often bullets.
Yep.
And that's something that we need to be aware of, we need to be cognizant of, and try to understand that these issues and these divisions that you were talking about, excuse me, this is my cat that's trying to come in the shot here. These issues and divisions that we are talking about need to be addressed on a bipartisan basis. Both parties need to address the extremism within our ranks. But let's not be fooled. A lot of that violence where people are getting killed is coming from the right.
Oh, let me get Douglas Sloan's view on that. Douglas, do Democrats realize or recognize this risk that the country faces right now, that it could, as Jaden said, enter a new era of assassinations. I mean, has there been a Democrat leader who's come out and also, gone above the fray and said, look, it's a time for the country to come together?
Well, I would think that that is the overall tone and tenor of most elected Democrats. We are not the party of violence, contrary, or rather, in supporting what I said earlier. Adolfo brought up the survey that they did, I think he said with Pew, regarding 50% of Democrats saying that they endorse violence. It just supports my point. Democrats aren't going to get violent with anybody. White supremacists will. White supremacists will go shoot up Mother Emanuel Church while people are worshiping. Neo-Nazis will. We know the history of Nazis in this country. So, there is a strong history of violence in this country, coming from white supremacists, coming from neo-Nazis, coming from the right, but not so much from the left. The left is a lot of lip when it comes to these issues. So obviously the left doesn't want violence. The left is in favor of saving the environment, saving the trees, saving the whales, saving the fish. They're not violent. We're not violent towards people. And the overall arching theme of Democrats at this time would be, let's return to normalcy here. Let's get back to a time where we can engage in constructive dialogue to try to solve some of the more important issues facing this country and get down to brass tacks regarding kitchen table issues like hyperinflation, potential recession.
I want to get to Adolfo very quickly. Adolfo, sure there's lots more to say, but we have to leave it there. We've run out of time. Thanks to all of you for being with us. That's it for this edition of The Heat.